The massive white ship floated quietly in the dark space between two warring territories. The UES healing light was 3 kilometers long and painted with bright red crosses that could be seen from great distances. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the large windows. His uniform was clean and simple, not meant for war, but for peace. "Captain, we have another refugee ship approaching," said Communications Officer Yoon-ji. She was young, but skilled at her job. Her voice was calm, even though they had been working non-stop for 3 days. Do-hyun nodded. "Tell them to dock at Bay 7. Have Dr. So-min meet them there." The healing light was not like other human ships. It had no weapons, no armor, and no soldiers. Instead, it had medical bays, surgery rooms, and thousands of beds for sick and injured beings from across the galaxy. The ship's crew wore white uniforms with medical symbols, not military ranks. Dr. So-min was the chief medical officer. She had been working in space hospitals for 15 years. Her hands were gentle but quick, and she never turned away anyone who needed help. Right now, she was in Medical Bay 3, checking on a group of Valak children who had been hurt in the fighting on their home world. The Valak were tall, gray-skinned aliens with large black eyes. Most humans had never seen them up close because the two species had been fighting for years. But here on the healing light, Valak and human doctors worked side by side to save lives. "How are they doing?" asked medical technician Hyejin as she brought fresh bandages. "Better," So-min replied, gently touching the forehead of a small Valak girl. "The fever is going down. In a few days they should be strong enough to join their families in the refugee quarters." Navigator Tae-ho was busy at his station, making sure the ship stayed exactly where it was supposed to be. The healing light sat in neutral space, a special area between human and Valak territory where neither side was allowed to fight. This was protected by the Galactic Medical Neutrality Accord, a treaty that said medical ships could never be attacked. "Sir, we're getting more requests for help," Tae-ho reported to Captain Do-hyun. "There's a transport ship with engine problems about 6 hours away. They have wounded soldiers from both sides on board." "Send them our coordinates," Do-hyun said without hesitation. "We'll wait for them." Security Chief Woo Jin walked onto the bridge. Unlike the medical staff, he did carry a weapon, but it was only a small stunner for keeping order on the ship. His job was to make sure fights didn't break out between different groups of refugees, not to fight wars. "Captain, some of the human refugees are complaining about sharing space with Valak families," Woo Jin said quietly. "They lost friends in the fighting." Do-hyun sighed. This was always the hardest part of running a hospital ship. "Remind them that pain is pain, no matter who feels it. We treat everyone the same here." In Surgery Bay 2, Dr. Kyung-ho was working on a badly injured Valak soldier. The alien had been shot by human weapons, but Kyung-ho worked just as hard to save him as he would any human patient. His assistant, Nurse Yoo-jin, handed him tools and kept the patient stable. "This one will live," Kyung-ho said after 3 hours of surgery, "but he'll need weeks of recovery." Yoo-jin smiled. She was young and had joined the medical corps because she wanted to help people, not hurt them. Her brother Min-ho was a captain in the regular fleet, but they rarely talked about his work. She preferred healing to fighting. The refugee quarters were full of families from many different worlds. Humans, Valak, and even some Xanthari, a peaceful species caught in the middle of the war. Children played together in the common areas while their parents worried about the future. The ship's social workers helped everyone find temporary homes or safe passage to neutral worlds. The food synthesizers are working overtime, reported Chef Dong-Su to Do-hyun during the evening briefing. We're feeding almost 10,000 beings now. Good thing we restocked at Station 7 last week. The bridge crew worked in shifts to keep the ship running smoothly. During the night shift, the lights were dimmed and everything was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Do-hyun often stayed up late, walking through the medical bays and talking to patients who couldn't sleep. Tonight, he stopped by the children's ward where Hye-jin was reading a story to a group of young refugees. She was using a translation device, so everyone could understand, and the children listened with wide eyes as she told them about brave heroes and happy endings. "Do you think there will really be peace someday?" asked a human boy whose parents had been killed in a bombing. Do-hyun knelt down beside the boy's bed. "I believe there will be. That's why we're here, to show that people from different worlds can work together and help each other. The medical computers never stopped working. They tracked every patient, every medicine, and every treatment. The ship's artificial intelligence, called MedCore, helped doctors make decisions and warned them about dangerous drug interactions between different species. "Captain," said Yoon-ji over the comm system, "we're receiving a transmission from the Valak government. They want to thank us for treating their people. And the human colony sent a message too," added Tai-ho. "They're grateful for our work with their refugees." Do-hyun smiled. This was why the healing light existed. In a galaxy torn apart by war, it was a place where species could remember what they had in common, instead of what made them different. The ship's laboratories worked day and night to develop new treatments. The plague that had swept through several worlds was still spreading, and the medical team was racing to find a cure. Dr. So-min spent hours studying samples and testing medicines. "We're close to a breakthrough," she told Do-hyun during their daily meeting. "If we can synthesize enough of the new medicine, we might be able to stop the plague completely." Engineer Chan Woo made sure all the medical equipment kept working. The ship needed enormous amounts of power to run its life support systems, surgical machines, and research laboratories. He was proud that the healing light had never lost power during an emergency. As Do-hyun prepared for sleep, he looked out, at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, fleets of warships were fighting and dying. But here, in this small piece of space, beings were healing and learning to trust each other again. The night shift took over, led by Lieutenant Bo-kyung. She would watch over the ship while most of the crew slept. The healing light would continue its mission of mercy, floating peacefully in the dark, a bright beacon of hope in a galaxy that had almost forgotten what peace looked like. Tomorrow would bring more refugees, more patience, and more chances to prove that compassion was stronger than hatred. Captain Do-hyun closed his eyes, knowing that his ship and crew were making the galaxy a little bit better, one saved life at a time. The healing light sailed on through space, carrying its precious cargo of healing and hope. The alarm started screaming at exactly 0347 ship time. Captain Do-hyun rushed to the bridge, still in his sleeping clothes. The peaceful quiet of the night shift was gone, replaced by flashing red lights and the sound of running feet. "Report!" Do-hyun shouted over the noise. 12 ships just came out of hyperspace," said Lieutenant Bo-kyung, her voice shaking. "They're Valak war cruisers, and they're heading straight for us." Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. Valak warships had no business in neutral space, especially near a medical vessel. He grabbed the comm unit. "All stations, this is the captain. We have Valak military ships approaching. Stay calm and follow emergency procedures." Communications Officer Yoon-ji was already at her station, trying to contact the approaching fleet. Valak vessels, this is the UES Healing Light. We are a medical ship operating under the Galactic Medical Neutrality Accord. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came in the harsh, clicking language of the Valak. The translation appeared on screen. Human vessel, you will prepare to be boarded. Sir, that's War Commander Thekvar's voice, said Yoon-ji. I recognize it from intelligence briefings. He's known for being aggressive. Do-hyun took the communication himself. War Commander Thekvar, this is Captain Do-hyun of the medical vessel Healing Light. We are treating patients from many worlds, including Valak civilians. We request that you respect our medical status. The alien fleet was getting closer. On the main screen, Do-hyun could see the dark shapes of the warships. They were huge, each one twice the size of the Healing Light and covered with weapon ports. Human, you harbor enemies of the Valak Empire, came Thekvar's reply. Surrender now or face destruction. Dr. So-min arrived on the bridge, still wearing her surgical scrubs. Captain, we have over 300 Valak patients on board, including children. Surely their own people won't attack us, Yoon-ji. Broadcast on all frequencies, Do-hyun ordered. Make sure everyone in the galaxy knows what's happening here. The young communications officer's fingers flew over her controls. All stations, all ships. This is the UES Healing Light. We are a medical vessel under attack by Valak forces. We are carrying patients from multiple species, including Valak civilians. Request immediate assistance. The Valak ships were now close enough that their weapon systems were powering up. The Healing Light sensors could detect the energy building in their guns. All medical staff begin emergency evacuation procedures, Do-hyun announced ship-wide. Move patients to the escape pods. This is not a drill. In Medical Bay 3, chaos erupted as doctors and nurses tried to move patients who could barely walk. Hae-jin was helping a Valak mother carry her sick baby when the ship shook violently. What was that? The Valak woman asked in broken human language. Warning shot, Hae-jin said, trying to keep her voice calm. Don't worry, we'll get you to safety. But she was wrong. It wasn't a warning shot. The first blast hit the Healing Light's engine section. The massive medical ship lurched sideways as explosions tore through the hull. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power grid failed. Direct hit to the engine room, reported Tae-ho. We've lost main power and life support in sections 7 through 12. Do-hyun couldn't believe what was happening. They're actually firing on us. A medical ship. They're firing on their own people. The second blast struck the main medical complex. The beautiful white corridors filled with smoke and flying debris. Dr. Kyung-ho was thrown against a wall as his surgery bay collapsed around him. The Valak soldier he had been treating was crushed by a falling beam. Medical Bay 2 is gone, came a voice over the comm. Medical Bay 4 is losing atmosphere. We need help here. Security Chief Woo Jin was trying to coordinate the evacuation, but it was almost impossible. The ship was designed for peace, not war. The escape pods were small and meant for emergencies, not for moving thousands of sick and injured people. Captain, we have escape pods launching from the damaged sections, reported Bo Kyung. But most of our patients can't be moved quickly enough. Another blast shook the ship. This time, the children's ward was hit. The stories and games were replaced by screaming and terror. Nurse Yoo-jin was trapped under a fallen support beam, blood running down her face. "Help me," she called out, but the other medical staff were busy trying to save the children around her. In the refugee quarters, families huddled together as the ship came apart around them. Human and Valak parents held their children, no longer caring about the war between their species. Fear made them all the same. "Sir, I'm reading massive structural damage," Tae-ho said, his voice barely steady. "The ship can't take much more of this." Do-hyun tried one more time to reach the Valak commander. "Tekvar, you're killing your own people. We have Valak children on board." "Traitors deserve death," came the cold reply. "As do those who help them." The fourth blast hit the bridge itself. The main screen exploded in sparks, and half the control panels went dark. Yoonji was thrown from her chair, her left arm hanging at a wrong angle. "Keep broadcasting!" Do-hyun shouted to her. "Someone has to know what happened here, Doctor." So-min was no longer on the bridge. She had gone back to the medical bays to help evacuate patients. In corridor after corridor, she found scenes of horror. The healing ship had become a death trap. So-min to bridge. Her voice came over the comm, weak and full of static. "I'm trapped in Medical Base 7 with about 30 patients. The corridor is blocked and we're losing air." "Hold on, Doctor," Do-hyun replied, but he didn't know how anyone could help. His ship was dying and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The Valak ships kept firing. They showed no mercy, no hesitation. The beautiful medical ship that had saved thousands of lives was being torn apart piece by piece. "Captain, Escape Pod 17 just launched," reported Woo Jin. "It has mostly children on board. Can we protect them?" "Sir, we don't have any weapons. We can't protect anyone." That was the hardest truth of all. The healing light had been built for peace, and peace was not enough against those who chose war. The fifth blast breached the main hull. Atmosphere rushed out into space, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of everyone who had believed that mercy could exist in a galaxy at war. In the distance, more Valak ships were arriving. The attack was not random. It was planned, organized, and without any concern for the innocent lives being lost. "This is Captain Do-hyun of the UES Healing Light," he said into the comm one last time. "We are a medical vessel under attack by Valak forces. They are killing patients, children, and medical staff. Remember this day. Remember what they chose to do." The ship's hull groaned as another explosion tore through the medical laboratories. Years of research that could have saved millions of lives disappeared in fire and vacuum. The healing light, which had brought hope to so many, was falling apart in the cold darkness of space. The distress signal reached the UES Iron Resolve 3 hours after the attack began. Captain Min-ho was in his quarters, reading tactical reports, when the emergency alert started blaring throughout his destroyer. "Captain, to the bridge!" came the urgent call from his communications officer. Min-ho ran through the corridors of his ship. The Iron Resolve was nothing like the peaceful healing light. This was a warship built for battle, with thick armor and powerful weapons. The crew wore military uniforms and moved with the practiced efficiency of trained soldiers. "What's the situation?" Min-ho demanded as he reached the bridge. "Sir, we're receiving a distress call from the UES Healing Light," reported Tactical Officer Ji-won. "They're under attack by Valak forces in the neutral zone." Min-ho felt his blood turn to ice. His sister Yu-jin was serving on that medical ship as a nurse. She had chosen healing over fighting, the opposite path from her brother. "Put the signal on speaker," he ordered. The bridge filled with the sound of explosions and screaming. Through the static came Captain Do-hyun's voice. "This is the UES Healing Light. We are a medical vessel under attack. They are killing patients, children, and medical staff." "Sir, that's a hospital ship," said Engineer Sung-min, his voice full of shock. "They can't attack a hospital ship." "Apparently they can," Min-ho replied grimly. Navigation, set course for the healing light's last known position. Maximum speed. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Jae-sung, we're one ship against a Valak battle fleet. The odds. I don't care about the odds, Minho cut him off. They attacked a medical ship. That breaks every rule of civilized warfare. The Iron Resolve turned toward the neutral zone, its engines pushing the ship faster than it had ever gone before. In the crew quarters, Marine Commander Bo-Ra was briefing her soldiers for a possible rescue mission. Listen up, she told her Marines. There are innocent people dying out there, medical staff, refugees, children. If we can save even one life, this mission is worth it. The Marines checked their weapons and equipment. They knew they might be flying into a hopeless battle, but that didn't matter. Someone had to stand up for those who couldn't fight back. Captain, said Communications Officer Han Wool, I'm picking up more transmissions from the attack site. The healing light is... Sir, I think they're gone. Minho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were cold and hard. Get me a detailed scan of the area. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. Sir, we're detecting 12 Valak heavy cruisers, reported Ji-Wan. They're still in the area, possibly picking through the wreckage. And survivors? Some escape pods scattered throughout the debris field, maybe a few hundred people out of the 10,000 who were on that ship. Minho thought about his sister. Yu-Jin had always been gentle, always trying to help others. She had joined the medical corps because she believed she could make a difference. Now she might be dead because some alien commander decided that mercy was weakness. Sir, incoming transmission from Fleet Command, said Han Wool. Admiral Dongwu's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and angry. Captain Minho, I'm ordering you to maintain your current position. Do not engage the Valak fleet. Sir, there are survivors out there who need help, and there are 12 enemy cruisers who will destroy you if you try to help them. I'm sending the 5th Fleet to assist, but they won't arrive for 18 hours. 18 hours? Minho couldn't hide his anger. Sir, those people will be dead in 18 hours. That's an order, Captain. Maintain position and wait for reinforcement. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Minho stared at the tactical display, showing the Valak ships and the spreading debris field of the healing light. Sir, said Pilot Han Sol quietly, my fighter squadron is ready to launch. We could provide cover for a rescue operation. Captain, added Engineer Sung-min, I've been working on something that might give us an edge. It's experimental, but... What kind of experimental? Minho asked. A quantum resonance weapon. It can cause enemy reactors to destabilize if they're operating on similar frequencies. The problem is we've never tested it in combat. Ji-Wan was studying the enemy fleet positions. Sir, if we approach from the debris field, we might be able to use the wreckage as cover. Hit-and-run tactics, keep them confused. They'll still outnumber us 12-1, Jae-sung pointed out. I don't care, Minho said firmly. Check the survivor locations. Are any of the escape pods still transmitting? Yes, sir. 17 pods are still active. Most are damaged but holding atmosphere. Bo-Ra stepped forward. Captain, give me the word and my Marines will board those cruisers and make them pay for what they did. Minho looked around at his crew. They were all volunteers for this mission, even though Command had ordered them to stay back. They understood what was at stake here. This wasn't just about military tactics or strategic objectives. This was about what kind of people they were. Sir, said Han Wool, I'm receiving a personal message for you. It's from one of the escape pods. Put it through. A weak voice came over the speakers. It was Dr. So-Min from the Healing Light. This is Medical Pod 7. We have wounded here who need immediate evacuation. Our life support is failing. Doctor, this is Captain Min Ho of the Iron Resolve. Can you tell me, is Nurse Yu Jin among the survivors? There was a long pause. Then, I'm sorry, Captain. Yu Jin was in the children's ward when it was hit. She saved 6 children before the ceiling collapsed on her. She's gone. The bridge went silent. Minho felt something break inside his chest, but his voice remained steady. Thank you, Doctor. We're coming to get you. He turned to his crew. All stations, prepare for combat. We're going in. Sir, Command ordered us to wait, Jae-sung reminded him. Command isn't here, Minho replied. We are, and we're not going to let those murderers escape after what they did. The Iron Resolve changed course toward the debris field. Behind them, the safety of human space grew smaller. Ahead lay a fleet of enemy warships and the remains of a ship that had stood for everything good in the galaxy. Sir, said Sung Min, the quantum weapon will need time to charge, and we'll have to get very close to the enemy ships for it to work. How close? Practically touching them. Minho smiled grimly. Perfect. They want to fight a medical ship? Let's see how they do against a real warship with a crew that has something to fight for. The Iron Resolve accelerated toward battle, carrying with it the anger and determination of everyone who believed that some things were worth dying for. The Iron Resolve dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the debris field. What Captain Minho saw made his heart sink, and his anger burn hotter at the same time. The healing light was gone, where the great medical ship had floated in peaceful neutrality. There was now only twisted metal, scattered equipment, and the broken dreams of 10,000 beings who had believed in mercy. Jesus, whispered Engineer Sung Min. They really did it. They actually destroyed a hospital ship. Sir, I'm reading multiple life signs in the debris field, reported Tactical Officer Ji-Wan. At least 300 survivors in various escape pods. And the Valak fleet? Still here, sir. 12 heavy cruisers in a standard patrol formation. They're hunting the escape pods. Minho watched the tactical display with growing horror. The alien ships were methodically moving through the debris field, destroying any escape pod they found. They weren't just satisfied with killing the medical ship. They wanted to eliminate every witness to their crime. Those bastards, growled Marine Commander Bo-Ra. They're murdering refugees and medical staff. Not anymore, Minho said quietly. All hands. This is the captain. Battle stations. We're going to save as many survivors as we can and make the Valak pay for their crimes. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Jae-sung, Command specifically ordered us not to engage. Command didn't see what I'm seeing, Minho replied. Sometimes you have to choose between following orders and doing what's right. The bridge erupted in activity as the crew prepared for battle. The Iron Resolve was a modern destroyer, fast and well-armed, but it was still just one ship against 12. Sir, the Valak have spotted us, reported Communications Officer Han Wool. They're demanding that we leave the area immediately. Tell them to go to hell, Minho said. All fighters, launch immediately. I want rescue operations to begin now. Pilot Han Sol and his squadron of 12 fighters launched from the Iron Resolve's hangar bay. Their mission was to provide cover for rescue operations while the destroyer dealt with the enemy fleet. This is Fighter 1, came Han Sol's voice over the comm. Moving to intercept Valak ships targeting escape pods in Sector 7. Copy that, Fighter 1. Save as many as you can. The first Valak cruiser to notice the fighters turned its weapons toward them. The massive ship was slow but heavily armed, and its guns began tracking the small human fighters. "Evasive maneuvers!" Han Solo ordered his pilots. "Don't let them! Get a lock on you!" Meanwhile, Engineer Sungmin was working frantically to prepare the experimental quantum resonance weapon. "Captain, I need at least 30 minutes to fully charge the system, and I still don't know if it will work." "Do your best," Minho told him. "Ji-Won, what's our tactical situation?" "Sir, the Valak ships are moving to surround us. They're trying to cut off our escape route." "Let them. We're not running anyway." The Iron Resolve moved deeper into the debris field, using the wreckage of the healing light as cover. The Valak ships were too big to maneuver easily among the twisted metal, but the smaller destroyer could slip between the floating pieces of hull and equipment. "Contact the survivors," Minho ordered. "Tell them help is coming." Dr. So-Min's voice came over the comm from Escape Pod 7. "Captain, we have critically injured people here. Some won't survive much longer without proper medical treatment." "Hold on, Doctor. We're coming for you." But reaching the survivors wouldn't be easy. The Valak ships were positioned to guard the escape pods, using them as bait to draw the Iron Resolve into range of their weapons. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildup from the lead Valak ship," Ji-Won reported. "They're preparing to fire. Their main guns. All power to forward shields. Evasive maneuvers." The Iron Resolve twisted between two large pieces of debris just as the Valak ship fired. The energy beam missed by meters, instead striking a chunk of the healing light's hull and vaporizing it completely. "That was too close," muttered pilot Han Solo. "Sir, my fighters can't get to all the escape pods. The Valak are covering too much space." Minho studied the tactical display. The enemy had positioned themselves perfectly to defend against a conventional rescue operation. But the Iron Resolve wasn't going to be conventional. "All fighters concentrate on the Valak ships in Sector 4, he ordered. "Draw their attention away from the survivors." "Sir, that will expose my pilots to concentrated fire from multiple ships." "I know, but it's the only way to create an opening." The 12 fighters dove toward the nearest Valak cruiser, their small weapons firing continuously. They were like angry insects attacking a giant, but they were fast and hard to hit. "Fatsur." Valak responded exactly as Minho had hoped. 3 of their ships turned their attention to the fighters, trying to swat them down with their massive guns. "Now!" Minho ordered. "Full speed toward the survivors in Sector 7. The Iron Resolve shot forward, using the distraction to reach a cluster of escape pods that had been hiding behind a large piece of wreckage. The ship's tractor beams locked onto the pods and began pulling them to safety. "We've got them," reported the rescue coordinator. 43 survivors secured. But the victory was short-lived. The Valak ships had realized what was happening and were moving to block any further rescue attempts. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Valak Fleet Commander," said Han Wul. "Put it through." The harsh voice of War Commander Thekvar filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you will cease your interference and withdraw immediately. These are criminals who aided enemies of the Valak Empire." "These are medical personnel and refugees," Minho replied coldly. "They're protected under galactic law. Your laws mean nothing to us. Leave now or share their fate." "No." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Minho could feel his crew's eyes on him. They all knew what that simple word meant. They were choosing to fight against impossible odds for people they didn't even know. "So be it," came Thekvar's reply. All 12 Valak ships began moving toward the Iron Resolve. Their formation was perfect, their firepower overwhelming. They came on like a wall of death, intent on erasing the human ship and every survivor it had rescued. "Sir, they're coming at us with everything they have," Ji-Wan reported. "Good," Minho said. "That means they're not focused on hunting escape pods anymore. Sungmin, how's that weapon coming?" "Still need 20 minutes, sir." "We might not have 20 minutes. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. The Iron Resolve's guns were small compared to the Veilak weapons, but they were precise and well-aimed. The destroyer's shots struck the lead cruisers, shields causing them to flicker and spark, but the return fire was devastating. Energy beams and missile volleys filled the space around the Iron Resolve. Only the ship's speed and the skill of its crew kept it from being destroyed in the first few seconds of the battle. "Hull breach on Deck 4, came a damage report. "We're losing atmosphere in sections 12 and 13. "Seal it off," Minho ordered. "Keep fighting." The Iron Resolve danced between the enemy ships like a fighter against a group of heavy boxers. It couldn't match their strength, but it could avoid their blows and strike back whenever an opportunity appeared. "Sir, Fighter 3 is down," Han Sol reported. "Fighter 7 has lost engines and is drifting. They were losing people, losing ships, but they were also buying time for the survivors to escape and for Sung Min to complete his work on the experimental weapon." 15 more minutes, the engineer called out. "Just give me 15 more minutes." Minho looked at the tactical display. 15 minutes might as well be 15 hours in a fight like this. But they would hold on somehow. They had to. "All stations, this is the captain," he announced, ship-wide. "We're fighting for every person who ever believed that mercy should exist in this galaxy. Don't let them down." Captain Minho realized that fighting the Veilak fleet head-on would only get his crew killed quickly. He needed to be smarter, more cunning. The Iron Resolve had one advantage over the massive enemy cruisers: speed and maneuverability. Ji-Wan, "I want you to target their sensor arrays only," he ordered his tactical officer. "Don't try to damage their hulls, just blind them." "Sir, that won't stop them from firing at us." "No, but it will make them fire at where they think we are, not where we actually are." The Iron Resolve darted between the floating pieces of the destroyed healing light. The debris field was huge, filled with chunks of hull plating, medical equipment, and personal belongings of the people who had died. Minho hated using his sister's grave as cover, but he needed every advantage he could. "Target the lead cruiser's sensor dome," Ji-Wan called out. "Firing!" The destroyer's guns sent precise beams of energy across space. They struck the Veilak ship's main sensor array, causing sparks and explosions across its surface. Suddenly, the massive cruiser was partially blind. "Direct hit! Their targeting sensors are damaged." "Good! Now move to the next ship. Stay in the debris field and keep hitting their eyes and ears." Engineer Sung Min's voice came over the comm from the engine room. "Captain, I figured out something important about their ships. They're all using the same reactor frequency. If the quantum weapon works, it should affect all of them at once. How much longer do you need?" 10 minutes for full charge. But, sir, we'll have to get within 500 meters of their hulls for it to work properly. 500 meters. That was practically touching distance in space combat. The Iron Resolve would have to fly right into the middle of the enemy fleet. "Sir, incoming fighters from the Veilak ships," reported pilot Han Sol. "Looks like they're tired of us dancing around out here." The enemy fighters were different from human designs. They were larger, heavier, and built more like small bombers than interceptors. But there were a lot of them. "How many?" 48 enemy fighters launching. My squadron can't handle that many, Minho thought quickly. All fighters, fall back to the Iron Resolve. We'll use the ship's point defense guns to even the odds. The human fighters raced back toward their mothership, with the Valak fighters in pursuit. The Iron Resolve's defensive weapons opened fire, creating a protective barrier of energy beams around the destroyer. "Got one," called out the gunner at Defense Station 3. Enemy fighter destroyed, but the Valak pilots were skilled too. They split into smaller groups, attacking from different angles. Several of them got through the defensive fire and launched missiles at the Iron Resolve. "Incoming missiles! Brace for impact!" The ship shook as explosions erupted across its hull. The lights flickered, and smoke filled several corridors. But the Iron Resolve was built tough, and it survived the attack. "Damage report. Forward shields down to 60%. Minor hull breaches on decks 7 and 9. We can keep fighting." War Commander Thekvar was getting frustrated with the human ship's tactics. From his flagship's bridge, he watched the small destroyer dart in and out of the debris field like a ghost. "Why haven't we destroyed this insignificant vessel?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Sir, they're using the wreckage as cover. Our larger ships can't maneuver effectively in the debris field." "Then clear the debris. Use the main guns to vaporize everything." "Sir, that will also destroy any remaining survivors." "Good. Let the humans watch their people die because of their foolish heroics." The Valak ships began firing indiscriminately into the debris field. Massive energy beams swept across space, destroying pieces of the healing light and any escape pods that might still be hiding. "Sir, they're destroying everything," G1 reported with horror. "They're killing their own people, too." "Some enemies of my people are still in those pods," Thekvar's voice came over the comm. "I would rather see them dead than rescued by humans." Minho felt his anger reach a new level. It wasn't enough for these aliens to destroy a hospital ship. Now they were murdering survivors just to deny him the chance to save them. "All fighters, new mission," he ordered. "Start attacking their communication arrays. I want them unable to coordinate with each other." "Sir, that will expose us to concentrated fire from their main guns." "Do it anyway. We need to split them up." The human fighters dove toward the Valak cruisers, their targets now the large communication dishes and relay stations on each ship. It was a dangerous mission, but it was working. As each ship lost its ability to talk to the others, their coordination began to break down. "Sir, I'm reading confusion in their fleet movements," Intelligence Officer Jae Sung reported. "Without clear communication, they're starting to get in each other's way." "Perfect. Sung Min, how's that weapon?" 5 more minutes, Captain. But I need to warn you about something. The quantum resonance effect might damage our own systems, too, if we're too close when it activates. Define too close. Anything within 2 kilometers could experience serious problems. Minho looked at the tactical display. The Valak ships were massive, and their formation was tight. Getting close enough to use the weapon and then escaping the blast radius would be nearly impossible. "Sir, we've lost 2 more fighters," Han Sol reported grimly. "I'm down to 6 operational craft. Fall back and regroup. We'll need you for the final attack." The Iron Resolve continued its deadly game of hide-and-seek among the debris. Every few minutes, it would appear from behind a large piece of wreckage, fire at an enemy ship's sensors or communications, and then disappear again before the aliens could respond effectively. But the tactic was taking its toll on the human ship, too. The constant maneuvering was pushing the engines beyond their normal limits, and battle damage was accumulating. "Sir, we've lost the port plasma conduit," came a report from the engineering section. "We're down to 80% power." "Sir, forward torpedo tubes are jammed," reported another station. "We can only fire from the rear launchers now." The iron resolve was slowly being worn down by the superior numbers and firepower of the enemy fleet. But it was still fighting, still saving lives, and still buying time for Sung-min to complete his work. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Communications Officer Han Wool said suddenly. "Long-range sensors show a large fleet approaching. From human space. Reinforcements? Maybe, sir. But they're still 12 hours away. 12 hours. They would all be dead long before then. But maybe that wasn't the point anymore. Maybe the point was to show the galaxy that someone was willing to fight for what was right, even against impossible odds. Sir, quantum weapon is almost ready," Sung-min announced. "But we'll only get one shot at this. If it doesn't work, we won't survive long enough to try again." "Understood. G1, plot a course that will take us through the center of their formation. Maximum speed." "Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe, but it's also our only chance to end this." The Iron Resolve began its final approach, accelerating toward the heart of the Valak fleet. Behind it, the debris field of the healing light spread across space like a graveyard. Ahead lay 12 enemy ships filled with beings who had chosen to make war on hospitals and murder refugees. "All hands. This is the captain," Minho announced. "We're going in. Remember what we're fighting for." The small destroyer raced toward its destiny, carrying with it the hopes of everyone who believed that mercy should be protected by strength. Engineer Sung-min wiped sweat from his forehead as he made the final adjustments to the quantum resonance weapon. The device had never been tested in real combat, and he wasn't even completely sure it would work, but the theory was sound. "Captain, I need to explain exactly how this weapon functions," he said over the comm to the bridge. "It creates a quantum field that synchronizes with fusion reactor frequencies. If the enemy ships have similar reactor designs, the resonance will cause their containment fields to destabilize." "In simple terms?" Minho asked as the Iron Resolve continued its dangerous approach toward the Valak fleet. "Their reactors will explode from the inside out, all at once." Intelligence Officer Jae Sung had been studying captured Valak technical data for months. Now that information might save their lives. "Sir, our analysis shows that Valak military ships are built in standardized batches. Ships from the same construction yard use identical reactor specifications." "Are these ships from the same yard?" "According to their hull markings, yes. They're all from the primary Valak military shipyard. Same reactor frequency, same containment systems." Tactical Officer G1 was tracking the approach vectors. "Sir, the Valak ships are moving to intercept us. They figured out we're making a direct attack run. Let them come. The closer they are, the better this will work." The Iron Resolve was now flying straight toward the center of the enemy formation. All around it, the massive Valak cruisers were turning their weapons toward the small human destroyer. Energy beams and missile volleys filled the space around the ship. "Direct hit on the starboard hull," reported the damage control officer. "We've lost shields on that side." "Keep going," Minho ordered. "We're almost in range." War Commander Thekvar watched the human ship's suicidal charge with satisfaction. "Foolish humans. They think their tiny ship can ram through our entire fleet." "Sir, should we concentrate fire and destroy them quickly?" asked his tactical officer. "No, let them come closer. I want to see the look in their eyes when they realize their mistake." But Thekvar didn't understand what the humans were really planning. He saw the Iron Resolve's charge as an act of desperation, not strategy. On the human ship, Engineer Sung-min was making his final preparations. "Captain, the quantum resonance generator is fully charged, but I need to get readings from at least 3 enemy reactors to lock onto their frequency. How close do we need to be for that?" 1,000 meters. And we need to hold that position for at least 30 seconds while I take the readings. 1,000 meters from multiple enemy warships. For 30 seconds, while they were shooting at him with everything they had. Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildup from all Valak ships, G1 reported. They're preparing to fire simultaneously. All power to forward shields. Evasive pattern delta. The iron resolve twisted and turned as it approached the enemy fleet, but there was nowhere to hide now. The ship was out in open space, surrounded by enemies, with no debris to use as cover. The first concentrated volley from the Valak ships struck like a hammer. The iron resolve's shields flared and collapsed, and the ship's hull began to glow red-hot from the energy impacts. Hull breach on deck 12. Forward torpedo room is gone. We're losing atmosphere on multiple decks. Seal emergency bulkheads and keep fighting, Minho ordered. Marine Commander Bo-Ra's voice came over the comm from the damaged sections. Sir, we've got fires on 3 decks. My Marines are helping with damage control, but it's bad down here. Hang in there, Bo-Ra. We're almost in position. The Iron Resolve was now less than 2,000 meters from the nearest Valak ship. Sung Min's sensors began picking up detailed readings from the enemy reactors. I'm getting good data from the lead ship, he reported. Their reactor frequency is exactly what our models predicted, but I need readings from at least 2 more ships to confirm. They're all the same. Another massive volley from the Valak fleet struck the Iron Resolve. This time, the damage was critical. The ship's main engines flickered and nearly shut down. Sir, we've lost main power, called out the engineering section. Switching to emergency power, but it won't last long. How long? Maybe 10 minutes at most. 10 minutes. That was all the time they had left. Sung Min, can you get those readings faster? Working on it, sir. I've got data from Ship 2. Now scanning Ship 3. The Iron Resolve was now in the middle of the Valak formation, surrounded by massive enemy cruisers. It looked like a minnow swimming among sharks. The aliens were so close that their individual weapon ports were visible on the main screen. Sir, why aren't they destroying us? Asked Communications Officer Han Wool. They could finish us off right now. Intelligence Officer Jae Sung checked his instruments. They're toying with us. This is what Valak commanders do when they want to humiliate an enemy. They let them get close, then destroy them slowly. Their mistake, Minho said grimly. Got it, Sung Min announced suddenly. All 3 ships have identical reactor frequencies. The quantum resonance weapon should affect every ship in their fleet. Range to target? 800 meters to the key. Nearest ship. We're well within the weapon's effective radius. The Iron Resolve was now taking continuous fire from multiple directions. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the smell of burning electronics filled the air. But the ship was still fighting. Sir, quantum weapon is ready to fire, Sung Min reported. But remember, we need to get at least 2 kilometers away before the resonance cascade begins, or we'll be caught in it too. How long from activation? To effect? 60 seconds. The quantum field needs time to build up and synchronize with their reactors. Minho looked at the tactical display. They were surrounded by enemy ships. The Iron Resolve was badly damaged, and they had less than 10 minutes of emergency power left. Getting 2 kilometers away in 60 seconds would be almost impossible. Sir, even if the weapon works, we might not survive the escape, Ji-won said quietly. Maybe not, but those Valak ships definitely won't survive if we don't try. The captain made his decision. All hands, prepare for emergency acceleration. Sung Min, activate the quantum resonance weapon. Weapon activated. Quantum field building. 60 seconds to resonance cascade. The Iron Resolve began to turn away from the enemy fleet, its damaged engines straining to provide acceleration. Behind them, the Valak ships continued firing, unaware that their doom was already counting down. 50 seconds to cascade. We're at 1,500 meters from the nearest ship. The Iron Resolve was moving as fast as its damaged systems would allow, but it wasn't fast enough. The Valak ships were keeping pace, continuing their bombardment. 40 seconds. 1,200 meters separation. "Come on," Minho whispered to his ship. "Just a little more speed." 30 seconds. 1,000 meters. They weren't going to make it. The Iron Resolve was too damaged, too slow, when the quantum cascade began. It would catch them in its effect. 20 seconds. 800 meters. "All hands, brace for impact," Minho announced. "This is going to be rough." 10 seconds. 500 meters. It wasn't enough. They were still too close. But there was no turning back now. Resonance cascade beginning. Now! The quantum resonance field spread out from the Iron Resolve like an invisible wave of destruction. Engineer Sung-min watched his instruments as the weapon's energy synchronized with the fusion reactors of the Valak fleet. "Resonance established," he reported. "The quantum field is linking with their reactor frequencies." At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Valak ships continued firing at the escaping Iron Resolve, unaware that death was already spreading through their hulls. War Commander Thekvar was preparing to give the order for a final concentrated barrage when his engineering officer noticed something wrong. "Sir, I'm reading fluctuations in our reactor core," the Valak engineer reported. "The containment field is becoming unstable." "Impossible. Run a diagnostic." But there was no time for diagnostics. The quantum resonance was working exactly as Sung-min had designed it. Deep in the heart of each Valak ship, the carefully controlled fusion reactions that powered their vessels began to spiral out of control. On the lead cruiser, alarms started screaming as the reactor's magnetic containment field wavered. The artificial sun at the ship's core, normally held in perfect balance, began to expand beyond its safe limits. "Sir, reactor containment is failing," the Valak engineer shouted. "We need to evacuate the engineering sections immediately." Thekvar couldn't understand what was happening. How can the reactor fail? We were just in combat. The systems were working perfectly. The answer came from his tactical officer. "Sir, I'm reading the same reactor problems on all ships in the fleet. This can't be a coincidence." The humans, Thekvar realized with growing horror. They did something to us. But his realization came too late. The quantum resonance field had synchronized with 11 of the 12 Valak reactors. The fusion cores that had powered the massive warships for years were now becoming bombs. On the Iron Resolve, Captain Minho watched the sensor readings with grim satisfaction. "Report, Sung-min. Is it working?" "Yes, sir. I'm reading massive energy spikes from 11 enemy ships. Their reactors are going critical." "What about the 12th ship?" "The flagship has a slightly different reactor design, newer model, different frequency. The quantum field isn't affecting it as strongly. That meant War Commander Thekvar would survive to see what happened to his fleet." The first Valak cruiser exploded without warning. The ship simply expanded into a ball of brilliant light as its reactor containment failed completely. The explosion was so bright that the Iron Resolve's sensors were temporarily blinded. "Holy hell," breathed Tactical Officer Ji-won. "That was a heavy cruiser. 3,000 crew." "They made their choice when they attacked a hospital ship," Minho replied coldly. The second ship exploded 5 seconds later, then the third. One by one, the massive Valak warships were tearing themselves apart from the inside. Each explosion was like a new star being born and dying in the same instant. On Thekvar's flagship, the Valak commander watched his fleet disappear in a chain of nuclear fires. Ships that had taken years to build and had fought in dozens of battles were gone in moments. "Sir, our reactor is also showing instability," his engineer reported. "But the effect is weaker. We might be able to contain it." "Do it! Whatever it takes!" The flagship's crew worked frantically to stabilize their reactor, manually adjusting containment fields and bleeding off excess energy. It was dangerous work, and several engineers died from radiation exposure, but they managed to keep the reactor from exploding. However, the ship was now crippled. Most of its power was being used just to keep the reactor stable. Weapons, shields, and engines were all operating at minimal levels. The Iron Resolve, meanwhile, had been caught on the edge of the quantum cascade. The ship's own reactor had been briefly affected, causing power fluctuations and system failures throughout the vessel. "Damage report," Minho called out as the lights flickered and computers rebooted. "We took some damage from the quantum effect," reported engineer Sung Min. "But our reactor frequency was different enough that we didn't suffer catastrophic failure. Main power is back online." "What about the Valak flagship?" "Still there, sir. Damaged but functional." Minho studied the tactical display. Where there had once been 12 enemy warships. Now there was only wreckage and radiation, and one barely surviving cruiser. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Valak flagship," Communications Officer Han Wool reported. "Put it through." "War Commander." Thekvar's image appeared on the main screen. The alien looked shaken and angry. Behind him, his bridge was filled with smoke and emergency lights. "What did you do?" Thekvar demanded. "How did you destroy my entire fleet?" "I protected innocent people," Minho replied. "Something you clearly don't understand. This was some kind of weapon. Some human trick." "Yes, it was. And now you know what happens when someone attacks our medical ships." Thekvar's black eyes burned with hatred. "You may have destroyed my fleet, human, but you are still outnumbered. My ship alone carries more firepower than your destroyer." "Maybe, but your ship is crippled, and mine is angry." The Iron Resolve began moving toward the damaged Valak flagship. The human ship had taken considerable damage in the battle, but it was still operational and ready to fight. "Sir, the Valak ship is trying to power up its weapons," Jiwan reported. "But they're having trouble with their power grid. Target their remaining weapon systems. Let's finish this." The Iron Resolve opened fire with everything it had left. Energy beams and torpedoes struck the Valak flagship's hull, causing explosions and breaches across its surface. The alien ship tried to return fire, but its damaged systems could barely function. "Sir, their main guns are offline," Jiwan reported. "Secondary weapons are also failing." "Good. Now hail them again." Thekvar's face reappeared on the screen. This time his bridge was dark except for emergency lighting, and smoke was pouring from damaged equipment. "You have a choice," Minho told him. "Surrender now, and your crew lives. Keep fighting, and I'll finish what you started when you attacked." "That hospital ship." "Humans don't take prisoners," Thekvar snarled. "Hospital ships do, even after what you did to the healing light. We'll still treat your wounded and give your crew medical care. That's the difference between us." The Valak commander stared at Minho for a long moment. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. His ship was dying, his fleet was destroyed, and the human vessel was preparing to deliver the final blow. "I surrender," Thekvar said finally, the words seeming to poison his mouth. "Smart choice. Prepare to be boarded." Marine Commander Bora and her surviving Marines prepared their equipment for the boarding operation. They would take control of the Valak flagship and arrest its crew for war crimes. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting the approach of Admiral Dongwu's fleet, Intelligence Officer Jae Sung reported. They'll be here in 6 hours. Good. They can help with prisoner processing and survivor recovery. Min-ho looked out at the debris field that had once been a peaceful medical mission. 11 Valak warships were now expanding clouds of radioactive gas. The healing light was scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Hundreds of innocent people were dead, but War Commander Thekvar was alive to face justice for his crimes. And every species in the galaxy would know that attacking human medical ships carried a terrible price. Sir, we're ready to board the flagship, Bo-Ra reported. Do it! And, Commander, make sure Thekvar understands that this could have been avoided if he had simply respected the neutrality of a hospital ship. The Iron Resolve moved closer to its defeated enemy, ready to collect the architect of a massacre and ensure he answered for his crimes. Marine Commander Bo-Ra led her boarding party through the damaged corridors of the Valak flagship. The alien ship reeked of smoke and burned electronics. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls, and the sound of failing systems echoed through the halls. Stay alert, she told her Marines. The Valak might try something desperate. But the alien crew they encountered seemed broken. The destruction of their entire fleet in a matter of minutes had shattered their will to fight. Most simply stepped aside as the human Marines passed, their large black eyes filled with shock and defeat. War Commander Thekvar waited in his command center, standing alone among the wreckage of his bridge. His officers had been evacuated to safer parts of the ship when the reactor nearly exploded. He wore his full ceremonial armor, as if preparing for an important occasion. War Commander Thekvar, Bo-Ra announced as she entered with her team. By the authority of the human fleet and the Galactic Medical Neutrality Accord, you are under arrest for crimes against non-combatants and violations of interstellar law. The Valak commander looked at the human Marines with contempt. I am a military officer engaged in lawful combat operations. You attacked a clearly marked hospital ship and murdered medical personnel, patients, and refugees, Bo-Ra replied. That's not combat. That's murder. They were harboring enemies of the Valak Empire. They were treating sick children. Your own children. Thekvar had no answer for that. Captain Minho's voice came over Bo-Ra's communicator. Commander, bring him to the bridge. I want to speak with him. The journey back to the Iron Resolve took 20 minutes. Thekvar walked silently through the corridors of the human ship, studying everything he saw. The Iron Resolve was smaller than his flagship, but it was clearly built by people who understood war. This is not like your hospital ship, he said, to Bo-Ra as they walked. No, she agreed. The healing light was built for peace. This ship was built to protect peace. You made the choice about which one you would meet. The bridge of the Iron Resolve was busy with rescue operations. Communications Officer Han Wool was coordinating with the approaching human fleet, while Intelligence Officer Jae Sung documented the battle for the official report. Captain Min-ho stood at the center of it all, still wearing his battle-damaged uniform. When Thekvar was brought before him, the two commanders studied each other for a long moment. Do you know what you destroyed today? Min-ho asked quietly. A military target disguised as a medical facility, Thekvar replied stubbornly. You destroyed hope. Min-ho's voice was calm, but filled with controlled anger. That ship represented the idea that some things are more important than war, that healing is more sacred than hurting. Weakness, Thekvar spat. Really? Then explain to me how one weak human destroyer just destroyed your entire fleet. Thekvar had no answer for that either. Engineer Sung Min approached the captain. Sir, I've completed my analysis of the quantum weapon's performance. The resonance cascade worked exactly as predicted. Every ship with a standard Valak reactor configuration was destroyed simultaneously. Will other species be able to duplicate this weapon? Possibly, but it would take years of research, and it only works against ships with identical reactor frequencies. It's not a magic solution for every battle. Minho nodded. The quantum resonance weapon would not change the balance of the war overnight, but it had sent a clear message. Attacking human medical ships would bring consequences. Sir, Admiral Dongwu's fleet has arrived, reported Han Wul. The Admiral is requesting permission to come aboard. Grant it, and have medical teams prepare to receive wounded from both sides. Admiral Dongwu arrived 2 hours later with a fleet of 20 ships, including a new hospital vessel. The elderly admiral listened grimly as Minho reported the destruction of the healing light and the battle that followed. You disobeyed direct orders, Dongwu pointed out. Yes, sir, I did. Good. If you had followed orders, there would be no survivors and no justice for this crime. The admiral turned to study War Commander Thekvar, who stood under guard nearby. This is the one who ordered the attack on the medical ship? Yes, sir. He freely admits to it. Then he will stand trial under galactic law. The entire galaxy will. See what happens to those who target non-combatants. In the days that followed, the story of the Healing Light's destruction and the Iron Resolve's revenge spread across the galaxy. The battle became known as the Cascade War, after the quantum weapon that had turned an enemy fleet into expanding clouds of gas. More importantly, it became a symbol. Every species in the galaxy learned that human medical ships were protected by more than just treaties and good intentions. They were protected by humans willing to die to defend the principle that mercy should be sacred. Dr. So-min, one of the few senior medical officers to survive the attack, testified at Thekvar's trial. She described how the Valak commander had refused to stop firing even when told that his own people were among the patients. He could have ended the attack at any time, she told the Galactic Tribunal. Instead, he chose to continue killing wounded children and medical staff. He chose to make war on the idea that healing should be neutral. Thekvar was found guilty of crimes against non-combatants and sentenced to life imprisonment. His trial was broadcast across the galaxy, ensuring that everyone understood the consequences of attacking medical ships. 6 months later, the UES Healing Light 2 was launched. It was larger than the original, with better medical facilities and more advanced research laboratories. But this time, it was escorted by a full battle group led by Captain Minho and the Iron Resolve. The message was clear. Human mercy came with human protection. Those who threatened one would face the other. Nurse Yujin's name was inscribed on a memorial wall aboard the new hospital ship, along with the names of all the other medical personnel who had died in the attack. Below their names was a simple inscription. They healed without regard for species or politics. They died because they chose compassion over fear. Captain Minho stood before that memorial during the new ship's maiden voyage. Around him, doctors and nurses from a dozen different species worked together to help those who needed healing. "Sir," said his new communications officer, "we're receiving a distress call from a transport ship. They have wounded soldiers from both human and Violac forces on board." Minho smiled slightly. "Tell them we're on our way. and remind the escort ships that medical neutrality is now enforced by the human fleet. The healing light, too, changed course toward the distress signal, protected by warships but carrying the same mission of mercy that had defined its predecessor. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humans. They were as fierce in protecting peace as they were in making war. In the cargo hold of the Iron Resolve, War Commander Thekvar sat in his cell, awaiting transfer to a prison colony. He had destroyed one hospital ship and killed hundreds of innocent people. In return, he had lost his entire fleet and his freedom. Sometimes, late at night, he wondered what would have happened if he had simply let the medical ship continue its work. But it was too late for such thoughts now. The humans had taught him, and the entire galaxy, that some prices were too high to pay. The Iron Resolve sailed on through space, its crew forever changed by the day they chose justice over orders and compassion over safety. They had proven that mercy, when properly defended, was not weakness, but strength. And in the vast darkness between the stars, new hospital ships carried their missions of healing, protected by those who understood that sometimes the greatest victory is not conquering an enemy, but saving a life.